Welcome to Griffin's Gaming Guides. In this video we're going to go over every gun you can acquire on Losomn in Remnant 2. Now in total there are 7 firearms that you can obtain in Losomn, some of them being very difficult to acquire. Now guns are your primary method of offense in Remnant 2 as they offer ranged attacks in varying forms and are classified as either long guns, which are your primary weapons, and handguns, which are your secondary or offhand weapons. There are in total 4 long guns you can acquire in Losomn. As for the handguns, you have 3 options. Now given the fact that Losomn is a blend between Victorian homesteads and palaces filled with fae, no area is safe in Losomn, even the drains have monsters lurking inside them. So it's a very good thing that in Losomn you can acquire some of the hardest hitting guns in the entire game. There are timestamps down below, we're going to cover off all 7, so let's get into it. So starting off, we're going to go for the Crescent Moon, which is a long gun, which you can acquire over in Nimue's Retreat and then Retreat's Horizon and ultimately Ward 13. However, before you can acquire the Crescent Moon bow, you will firstly need to have acquired the Dreamcatcher melee weapon in the Tormented Asylum, which you can only access from the Morrow Parish starting point. So grab that and then head over to Nimue's Retreat, where once in a while Nimue will be sleeping. Now if you do need the Dreamcatcher melee weapon, link below the like button for how to acquire every single melee weapon on Losomn. And then once you have acquired the Dreamcatcher, like I say, head over to see Nimue, who once in a while will be laying down on her left arm. You need to equip the Dreamcatcher, go up to Nimue and then hit her bracelet. Now you won't actually impact her, you don't have to worry about her hitting you back, where you will essentially just walk up to her and upon attacking her, you will pull a dream out of her bracelet called Nimue's Dream. However, to use Nimue's Dream, you need to go into your inventory, select Nimue's Dream, then quick slot, choose a slot, and then back out to your character. Hold down LB, L1 or whatever the button is on PC, and then use your quick slot to use Nimue's Dream, where you will then be transported to a new biome called Retreat Horizon, which is a tiny island surrounded by water. You're looking for an item called Anime's Echo, which is essentially a very brightly glowing blue kind of rock. Once you find it, collect it, then go back to Ward 13, have a chat with Macabre, where as long as you've got Anime's Echo, 7 Luminite Crystal and 1000 scrap, you can then craft the incredibly powerful Crescent Moon bow. Now the Crescent Moon bow, like all bows in Remnant 2 that I've come across so far, they're bolt action, so they've only got a 1 round magazine. You'll fire an arrow, reload, fire another arrow, blah blah blah. Standard kind of bow and arrow stuff. However, this thing's baked in ability called Moonlight Barrage is what makes the Crescent Moon one of the very best bows in the entire game, as it empowers the bow for 15 seconds. Arrows apply moonlight to enemies for 3 seconds. Enemies struck by Crescent Moon while moonlit release a moon essence, which returns 1 arrow, heals 5% of your max health, and grants 15% fire and reload speed for 5 seconds. Basic shots automatically become charged shots, meaning that they'll hit a lot harder just by simply spamming the attack button whilst aiming, and then manually charged shots fire off 2 arrows, essentially dealing double damage. Now whilst that might seem like a lot to take in at first, essentially what it means is every time you activate your Moonlight Barrage and you hit an enemy, you're going to heal. You're also going to get an arrow straight back in your quiver, and you're going to be able to fire and reload faster. Every time you hold down your attack button whilst aiming, you're dealing double damage. This is, if you're a fan of playing as like a ranger, or if you're trying to go for a stealth build or something like that, which isn't really worth it in Remnant 2, but if you can find a way of making it work, the Crescent Moon is the bow you want. You can also find the Royal Hunting Bow on Losomn, as well as the Sagittarius over on Yasha. I don't believe there's any other bows in the game. If I'm wrong, let me know down in the comments. Now for me, the Crescent Moon long gun is definitely one of the most combat efficient weapons in the game, as it simply heals you every time you hit an enemy once you've activated the mod. It does take a little bit of time to build up the mod power to use it, but once you do so, there's not going to be much that can take you down, as you're healing every time you hit an enemy. This is definitely one that I'll put some resources into, especially if you want to go through using a bow.
Oh, shit.
Next up, we'll take a look at the Deceit long gun, which you can acquire once you've taken down Fei Lin, who is one of the 2 potential world bosses from the Palace Courtyard starting point and can be found in the Beatific Gallery. Once you've collected both the Fei Lin and Fei Rin mural pieces, put the pieces into the large courtyard door back at the Palace Courtyard at the very start of Losomn. You're then going to be able to go through, have a chat with Fei Lin and say, actually, I think I'll challenge you, where you're then going to take the boss on. Once you've taken him down, you're going to require something called the Imposter's Heart. Take that over to Ward 13 along with 7 Luminite Crystal and 1,000 scrap. You're then going to be able to craft the Deceit long gun, which is a very powerful gun if you're a fan of a melee build to go alongside your main gun. Deceit has a baked-in ability called Ouroboros, which conjures 3 sword fragments that encircle the wielder for 30 seconds. Performing a melee attack lets loose a fragment which taints the blood of targets, causing all attacks from Deceit to register as weak spot hits for a short period of time. It's around 3 or 4 seconds. Now, charged melee attacks fires all remaining fragments at once. So what that basically means is, if you manage to activate your mod ability on Deceit, obviously Ouroboros, you're then going to have 3 little blades spinning around you. Every time that touches an enemy, every single round that you fire from Deceit, now it does take a couple of seconds to actually charge up a round. It will then send kind of an energy beam forward in 2. Every time that hits an enemy, it will register as a crit attack, regardless of where it hits them. If you can hit them on their original crit spot, then you're going to be dealing a bit more damage anyway. But for this one to just register as weak spot hits, if you're taking down any hard to hit enemies, either on Losomn or in any other world, providing you can actually hit the enemy with one of those little blades that spins around you, you're going to be dealing a significant amount of damage. This, for me, if it's one of your first guns that you've acquired in Remnant 2, if Losomn was your first world, obviously I do recommend going off and doing Yaesha first. However, if you've gone through Losomn and you've managed to get the Deceit weapon, make sure that you pump as many resources into it as you can, as it will just decimate enemies, especially the tougher ones. Next up, we're going to take a look at the double barrel shotgun, which you can acquire in a safe in the Asylum from the Morrow Parish starting point on Losomn. You need to head through Morrow Parish, then through either Cotton's Kiln or the Great Sewers, where you will then come back to Morrow Parish, follow the path around, then jump over the wall and climb the ladder into the Asylum. Head down and around to the ground floor into the entrance hall, taking out the nurses as you go, then through the open door into the manager's office, where you will find an iron safe just over to your right next to her desk. Input the code 2971 and open the safe to acquire a very hard-hitting double-barrel shotgun. Now, the fact that they've classified this as a handgun rather than a long gun is mainly because it's a sawn-off shotgun. Normally, a double barrel will have a very long barrel to allow for rifling to give you better aim. However, where this is sawn off, it effectively hits very, very hard, providing you're at a fairly close distance to your target. Now, there are plenty of weapons that you can acquire throughout Remnant 2. There's ones that fire teeth, there's ones that fire bone, there's ones that fire energy blast, there's other ones that just kind of fire an incredible amount of rounds in short space of time. However, for me, being a bit old school, a double barrel shotgun is a double barrel shotgun, and if you aim it at someone's face and pull the trigger, they're going to have a very bad day. I don't care who you are or what world you're from, it's going to hurt. And it really does. This is definitely a handgun, although it's only got a 2-round magazine and it does take a bit of time to reload. So overall DPS, the fact that if you send this thing into someone's chest or head on a lower level enemy, it will send them falling backwards, send them on their ass. It will then give you time to reload as they're getting up. You can then put another couple of rounds into them and it's good night Vienna, off they go.
We don't want you here! Leave us alone!
Next up, we'll check out the Meridian handgun, which for me is a pile of crap. It's an absolute pathetic weapon and it's not worth the time that the developers put actually putting it in the game. But it's a weapon that you can acquire on Losomn, so we're going to go through it. Now what you need to do is make your way through to the Great Sewers, which can be accessed from the Morrow Parish starting point. You need to head through to a wooden barricade that you're going to see in a video in a tick, smash through it and then jump across where you will need to kill all of the bulbous creatures, including one in the pipe over to your left, which will then make water start running down. You're going to need to wait for around 90 minutes of real world time, then carefully jump across the pallets. Now as you jump you need to pull back on the left stick, which will then prevent you from rolling off the edge. Jump over to a cutout in the wall where you can then collect the Meridian grenade launcher, which also turns into a rocket launcher, which actually makes this weapon even more of an embarrassment to use than it ordinarily would do in pretty much any other game. Now let me explain. The Meridian handgun is called a grenade launcher. Its modded ability turns it into a rocket launcher. However, this thing doesn't even explode when it hits an enemy. It just kind of goes thunk, dink, thunk, dink. And it's crap. For a grenade launcher that can then turn itself into a rocket launcher, it is one of the worst handguns in Remnant 2. Now like I've said in some of the other videos, if you're a collector or if you're going off and making your own guides, then feel free to go off and get the Meridian. However, if you're a gamer looking for a decent weapon, this isn't it.
Ooh, not bad. Okay.
Kill us all! Kill us all!
You can't escape the flame!
Next up we're going to have a look at the Nightfall long gun, which you can acquire once you've taken down the Night Weaver by not destroying her heart, which will then give you the Cursed Dream Silks. The Night Weaver can of course be fought in the Tormented Asylum, which is accessible from the Morrow Parish starting point on Losomn. Make your way through where you're then going to be able to fight and take down the Night Weaver. Grab your Cursed Dream Silks, you can then take them over to Macabre in Ward 13, along with 7 Luminite Crystal and 1000 Scrap. You're then going to be able to craft one of, if not the most powerful long gun in the entire game. The Nightfall long gun will come with a 10 round semi-automatic magazine, meaning that you need to keep pressing the attack button whilst aiming to fire off what will be a bone finger essentially into the enemy. However, whilst that doesn't sound very good, its baked in ability is what makes this thing just overpowered as anything. It's called Dreadwalker, and what happens is you enter the Nightmare Realm. Nightfall gains infinite ammo, a 25% fire rate increase, 10% lifesteal, and becomes fully automatic. The wielder becomes significantly harder to hit whilst moving. Now it does disable other weapons and skills for the duration or until Dreadwalker is deactivated, and like I say, it lasts around 10 seconds. Now the fact that this thing deactivates or disables any other weapons is irrelevant, as you simply need to aim, hold down the trigger, and it doesn't really matter how many enemies are in front of you, providing you know how to aim and aim at different enemies whilst they're still alive, they're all gonna die. It's that simple. This thing has been nerfed a couple of times by the developers because at release it was just far too powerful. However, even after the nerfs that it's received, the Dreadwalker ability on the Nightfall long gun, I haven't found anything that comes close to matching its power. The fact that it just becomes fully automatic with infinite ammo means you never need to worry about reloading. All of the kind of semi-automatic stuff that you've had to do in order to build up your mod ability for Dreadwalker, that's just negated. Aim, hold down the button, kill absolutely everything in front of you, rinse and repeat. The game has just become simple. I can't recommend another weapon in Remnant 2 to take up to level 10 more than the Nightfall long gun. If you've watched our Yeisha gun guide that we put up, I recommended the Merciless long gun as my favourite. As soon as I took down the Nightweaver and I went off and crafted Nightfall, I haven't even equipped Merciless since then. The Nightfall has been my staple to get me through the hardest sections in Remnant 2, and it's done it without even breaking a sweat. Next up, we've got the Royal Hunting Bow long gun, which can be found in a randomly occurring biome called Postulant's Parlour on Losomn. And in order to obtain the Royal Hunting Bow, you need to win a board game. Now, Postulant's Parlour is a nasty area in Losomn which is filled with fate and specials, so ensure that you're well geared before going through the biome, with your aim being to get to the very back room in the middle section. You will notice as you progress through there are essentially 9 main rooms with several sections being blocked off. You will, however, be able to fight your way through to the very back room of the area, where you will see a statue sitting across from an empty seat with a board game in front of him, her, it, whatever it is. Take a seat, and your objective is to move 1 piece per move as you attempt to get 3 in a row, which can be done either horizontally, vertically or diagonally. The choice is yours. Just take care, as every time you lose, you will become cursed, which then makes you susceptible to a quick death should you be engaged in combat before getting back to a checkpoint, thus removing the curse. Now take your time with the game and try to block your opponent's moves as best as you can until you ultimately come away with the win. Once you have won the game, the back door will then open behind the statue, revealing a shrine which holds a very powerful Royal Hunting Bow long gun. Now, the Royal Hunting Bow itself does have a 115% crit damage bonus, so if you get proficient at aiming for heads or any sort of crit spot on an enemy, you are going to essentially be dealing just over double damage. If you're already outputting, say, 125 damage, get a crit, you're then going to be dealing around 260, 263, something like that. So make sure that you kind of aim for crits as much as you can. What does let the Royal Hunting Bow down, though, is it doesn't come with a built-in mod. However, it does have a mod slot, so you can chuck your own one on if you want to, as well as a spare mutator slot, which will hopefully really increase the damage output that you can cause with the Royal Hunting Bow long gun. Now, resource wise, it's not the best bow in the game. Obviously, earlier on in the video we covered the Crescent moon bow. That's the bow that you want to upgrade in Remnant 2. If you can only find the Royal Hunting Bow, or if you're struggling getting through to the Tormented Asylum, then chuck a little bit of resources in it. Maybe take it up to level 5. But for me, the Crescent moon far outweighs the Royal Hunting Bow, so make sure that you save your resources for later on and only upgrade this one if you've got nothing better and you're struggling.
Not bad. Not bad at all.
And finally, we've got the Rune pistol, which is a very difficult weapon to acquire for one specific reason. You need to make sure that you go from the Morrow Parish starting point all the way through to the Great Hall, which for me took 32 times of re-rolling adventure mode until the biome spawned. Now, what makes it so difficult is the Great Hall will only appear in the Forsaken Quarter. It will only be a portal off from that biome, which you already need to have gone through either the Great Sewers or Cotton's Kiln, taking down either the Bloat King boss or Gwendol the Unburnt. You're then going to have to go all the way through the Asylum, take down the Ripsaw Aberration, get the 3rd floor Asylum key, go through and speak to Nimue, then go through the Forsaken Quarter itself, where you will hopefully not be ambushed by the Huntress. If you are, that's another boss you need to take down, where you're ultimately, hopefully, going to come to the Great Hall biome. You won't be able to do this one from the Palace Courtyard. I've tried. It's much easier to get the Great Hall to spawn and a lot quicker, but I've given that a go. It doesn't work. It won't cross over. It has to be the Morrow Parish starting point. So once you do get to the Morrow Parish starting point and then you finally manage to get into the Great Hall, you then need to make your way all the way through the biome, up the stairs to your right, where you're going to be able to go behind the ovens. On a shelf will be something called a Ravenous Medallion. Normally, you'd be able to use this medallion, take down everyone in the Great Feast fight and acquire the Bone Chopper melee weapon. However, if you're after the Rune pistol, and of course you are, that's why you're here, you need to make sure that you keep hold of the Ravenous Medallion. You then need to get your way all the way through to the Tormented Asylum, which is the world boss biome, where you're going to need to fight the Night Weaver. Now, fortunately, you won't actually need to take the Night Weaver on. You will, however, along the way, need to take down either Magister de Lon or, even worse, the Red Prince. The Prince being one of the toughest fights in the entire game. That guy can seriously hit and inflict some fire damage. But anyway, once you've taken down either the Red Prince or Magister de Lon, you're going to be able to acquire something called a Soul Key Tribute. By going down the stairs, you're going to meet the Night Weaver, who's currently feasting on a corpse, as you do. Make sure that you collect the Soul Key Tribute, use that down on the blue web at the bottom of the Asylum in the cells to then be transported over to the Tormented Asylum. Go into the cell on your left and exchange the Ravenous Medallion for something called a Decrepit Rune. With the Decrepit Rune acquired, you can then fast travel over to Nimue's retreat, which you would have gone through earlier anyway, in order to be able to then exchange the Decrepit Rune with Nimue for the Rune pistol. Now, whilst that is a hell of a lot that you need to do in order to just acquire a simple looking handgun, it is very much worth the effort. Now, what makes the Rune pistol so damn good is it not only fires in 3-round bursts, which is a lot better than just semi-automatic, it also has a baked-in ability called Soul Brand, which applies Soul Brand to all enemies within 25 meters and it lasts 25 seconds. Enemies killed while bearing the Soul Brand leave behind an echo, which lasts 10 seconds before returning to the Nightmare Realm, essentially just disappearing. Echoes are drawn to any survivor who walks within 3 meters of them, granting 20% of your max health on contact. So whilst that is a fair old bit of information, what it essentially means is activate Soul Brand, everyone's going to get a rune above their head, kill them, and then they're going to leave behind a little white dot, go up to the white dot, you've instantly got 20% of your health back. So if you manage to get a few enemies that are surrounding you, they all think that they're going to be Billy Big Balls and take you down, activate Soul Brand, give them all that little rune on their head, then take them all down. So like you've only got 10% of your health left. If you've just killed 4 enemies, you've got 80% of your health back. You're then near enough fully topped up. If you've got, say, 5 or more enemies, even if you're right on the brink of death, you're then going to be fully healed. You're then going to be able to go off and just take down everything in your path. This is definitely a weapon that you need to upgrade. Not because of the damage output that it can do, but only because of that soul brand ability. It is one of the best abilities in the game. For something to be able to give you 20% of your max health back just by activating a mod, which lasts for 25 seconds, in a game like Remnant 2 is invaluable. But anyway, that's a look at all 4 long guns and 3 handguns that you can acquire on Losomn in Remnant 2. I do hope that the video has helped you out. Now, do me a favour, let me know down in the comments if you already acquired any of these, have you leveled them all up, have you got every single one of them, or are you not interested in going through Losomn whatsoever, and you just want to kind of rush through, get the campaign done and out of the way, and then forget about ever coming back here. Whatever it is, let me know down below. It's your choice, of course, as is whether or not you want to click the like button, which I would very much appreciate. Either way, though, whichever you decide to do, please take care of yourselves out there, enjoy the rest of your day, and I do look forward to seeing you back here at Griffin's Gaming Guides.